This year has been like no other. I mean, with COVID-19 and everything, but we've seen violence against women and girls reaching a pandemic proportion. If you look at the rate in which the violence that is being meted out against women and ladies or young girls, the levels at which it's rising onto, it's quite disturbing and alarming. Now, across various African countries, in Liberia, for example, they recorded a 50% increase in gender-based violence in the first half of this year. And between January and June, they had more than 600 reported rape cases. Nigeria also saw an increase in sexual violence during the various curfews they implemented to curb the COVID-19. 2 cases in June in which young women were raped and killed, and that was something that shocked the whole country in Nigeria. Now in Kenya, we had the local media reporting almost 4,000 schoolgirls becoming pregnant when the schools were closed during the lockdown. I mean, these are not pleasant figures. These are very disturbing things. And according to the latest statistics from the South African Police Service, every 3 hours, a woman is killed. She's murdered in the South African country. Since April, gender-based violence has increased by an estimated 10%, while reported injuries to women and children have increased by 69%. Rape has increased by 27%, and other assaults by 45%. And this is according to a June report just this year by the crime analyst with the United Nations Stabilization Mission in the Central African Republic. These figures paint the situation on the ground. They paint a frightening reality for all. And as much as we look at all these figures, for us that are women, for us that are girls, we feel like all hope is lost. But there's always amazing and saving grace elsewhere. And wherever you look for it, there's always a silver lining in each cloud. So we have organizations that have actually set themselves up not to just draw attention to all these injustices and atrocities, but also to create solutions and ensure that the world is safer for women and for girls. We have among some of these organizations, we have OXFAM. It's an international organization that has been working in Ghana since 1985. That's a long time. And they are working hard to reduce poverty and inequality, especially between women and men, also by supporting and influencing also in advocacy in 3 areas of intervention. You talk about agriculture, essential services, and extractive industry governance. We also have the Widows and Orphans movement. Now, they are based in the northern region of Ghana here, and they are overseeing, or let's say creating a safe haven for widows and orphans here in the northern part of Ghana. Not just in the northern part of Ghana, but that's where they are based. They make widows not feel ostracized. They don't make them feel like this is the end of the world. They teach them, they let them acquire skills, they empower them, they educate the children, let them feel that all is not lost because I've lost a parent or because I don't have 2 parents. And then let them also feel that my life has come to an end because my husband is dead. And per some of the norms in some parts of the northern region, if your husband dies, you become, it's like a wife inheritance. You have to be married off to either one of his brothers or a family member. And if you choose or to refuse that, then you're ostracized by the family. But for women who don't agree and go ahead with this, they find a safe haven with the Widows and Orphans movement. So I mentioned that we have organizations that are doing a great way of keeping all these people safe. Now, they are not the only one. We also have Viamo. And Viamo is a social enterprise that is based in Accra, Ghana. And they specialize in mobile engagement, information and communication technology for development. Their goal is to create a world where all people have access to the information that they need to make decisions for healthy, prosperous lives while being among all these great people. These are a couple of the organizations that we have trying to ensure that the world is more safe for both girls and women. And in the studio with us today, We have the country director of Viamo, Sandra Abrakwa. She's in the studio with us. We also have the executive director of Widows and Orphans Movement, Fatih Abdullahi, with us via phone call. And joining us via Zoom is Keita Rose Tahiru, the Gender Justice Advisor for Oxfam-Ghana. First off, I'd like to say a very big welcome to all of you, starting with Sandra in the studio with me. And I'll start with Keita. I mean, she is the Gender Justice Advisor for Oxfam-Ghana. And Oxfam-Ghana is also doing their own 16 days of activism, because, I mean, the situation is not limited to just one part of the world. It's running globally. So, first off, Keita, you're welcome to the show. Please tell me and the audience about the Enough Project.
Sure. So the Enough Project is a 4-year project. It's funded by the European Union. We're working in Ghana, Liberia, and Mali. So the overall aim of the project is to create that enabling environment so that women and girls can know, they can exercise, and they can claim their rights to end sexual and gender-based violence. So within that broad aim, we have 2 major objectives. So the first objective is around really strengthening the institutional capacity, strengthening the technical capacity of women's groups, women's associations, civil society, and communities to talk about gender-based violence, to advocate around gender-based violence, and to influence policy and practices on gender-based violence, because really it's about, if you can't talk about it, if you can't influence on it, then you can't change it. So that's one of our project objectives. And the second objective is really around making sure that we're challenging and we're changing the negative social norms that perpetuate and normalize violence against women and girls and sexual and gender-based violence. So within that, we're working with men and boys to talk about toxic masculinity, to see how we can broaden the conversation towards positive masculinity, and towards a masculinity that is based on positive aspects of care, positive aspects of manhood, and does not rely on negative power structures to really say who a man is or who a boy is, but really rather focuses on those positives and equal environment for both men and women, and boys and girls. So those are the main parts of what the project is, and what we hope to achieve. So with the Enough Project, for example, we're working with 11 local partners across 6 regions in Ghana. So Viamo, Widows and Orphans Movement are 2 of those organizations. We have 9 other organizations that we're working with across the country in Upper East, Upper West, Northern, Greater Accra, Bono East. So we are working to really change those norms so that people can really start to question and really start to think about why these things are the way they are. That's kind of really the first step. So, I mean, one clear example is that we have the partners. We have people on the ground. We have organizations on the ground that we're working with, and that's one of the first steps in really seeing that difference. Without folks in communities, you're going to just be really talking about maybe some high-level impacts, but then when you get into the day-to-day, people may not see those impacts in their lives. So the important thing is to have those partners on the ground in communities, talking to religious leaders, talking to traditional leaders, talking to girls, talking to boys, forming school clubs, raising up gender champions. And so these are some of the things that we've been doing within the gender justice and the sexual and gender-based violence space on the Enough project. And that's where we've really seen a lot of our gains, really working in the communities, seeing that we have, at this point, we have a component of the project, for example, called the Legal Literacy Volunteers. And over 180 volunteers so far have been trained and are working in communities to provide access to legal resources and services for survivors and vulnerable individuals. So that's one quick example of how gender-based violence is kind of culturally specific, but the underlying idea is about accessing these power differentials and hierarchies, and also those norms that say this is what someone who is a man, or someone who is a woman, someone who is a boy, someone who is a girl, or identifies as such, this is what they should do, this is how they should act. And so if you decide that you're not going to act like that, then there are consequences.
Okay, not to cut you off, but I have Fati on the line, and like I mentioned earlier, she is the executive director for Widows and Orphans movement here in our base Ghana, I think part of the northern region of Ghana. Now, Fati, hello?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Okay, so based on the question I asked Keita, I'm just going to ask you, but I want you to specific to your community, because you are dealing with a specific community. I mean, you're looking at a setting range of people, orphans, and then widows and orphans. Now, what are some of your biggest challenges? I mean, based on social norms, attitudes, and practices. I mean, setting dynamics that have been relating to the social, economic, rural, and I mean, problems that are totally indiscriminate.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll speak from the perspectives of Upper East region, and this is where the Enough project is currently working in. And one of the key issues on sexual and gender-based violence has to do with some of the widowhood rights that are in the region. And so we have some aspects of widowhood rights that allow the widow to be inherited. So the widow herself is sometimes regarded as property that has to be inherited by the surviving male relatives of her spouse. Now, under this arrangement, what happens is that it is not consensual. So it means that she's being forced to marry somebody she isn't really interested in getting married to. Another instance is that as part of all those processes, some of the rights require that she strips completely naked to perform these rites to the full glare of the public. Again, it doesn't really promote the dignity of woman in this regard. We have some of the rights where her hair is completely shaven off as part of the rites or mourning processes. And we all know that for most women, our hair is not, it means a lot to us. And so having this hair completely shaven bald also is another way of actually causing abuse to some of these women. So we have instances again where the children, meaning the children of these widows, are forced into early marriages. Obviously, because it's the men that have the power to decide who goes to school or who doesn't go to school. And when they need dowry to any of the other boys to get married or other men to get married, the first thing they would do is actually to look at the female children of the widows and then give them out to marriage. So we equally have the victim blaming, which is everywhere, where even when these women are abused, they are expected not to report because apparently women that report such abuses are considered bad women, and so you are expected to be silent about these abuses, and you are expected to go through those abuses without complaining. We also have another aspect of it where the widows are made to drink concoctions. And from our experience, some of these women have ended up at the hospital, sometimes with liver problems and other health problems as a result of some of these right.
situations.
And
Not,
so
not to
these
cut
are
you
some
off.
of the
Not to cut you off, Fatty. Not to cut you
yeah.
off. But I mentioned earlier that I have in the studio with me Sandra Braka, and she is the country. She's representing Viamo here with us. Now, not to cut you off, I'll get back to you on that. Sandra.
Okay.
Yes.
So, what trend has your research shown? I mean, using ICT for change and development, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to encounter?
So I think the thing about technology is that it's a great enabler,
Yeah.
right? Here we are in Ghana and in Africa. The good thing that we have going for us is that a lot of people now have mobile phones.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a fancy phone. If you have your regular YAM phone or your feature phone or a smartphone, you can be reached.
Yeah.
And the challenges that we found in the past are that, people have cell phones, but
Yeah.
then they might be challenged by language barriers. So a lot of things are in English, a lot of prints are in English. If you can't speak English or you can't read it, that means that you're automatically disadvantaged.
Yeah.
So what we try to do at Viamo is use the power of the mobile phone to, bring information to people in a way that allows them to be part of the discussion that affects their lives. So here we are talking about, women and gender-based violence. The women should participate in that, right? We shouldn't sit here and decide what is going to work for them and what they should do and what they shouldn't do. They should also be able to have a voice and to be able to contribute what they think they should be done to be helped. And so what we do is we bring local language and we use technology to really deliver local language content to women and girls and to men and boys, really to everybody. So then that way, you can get access to information while you are not limited by distance or by language. So we provide local language information, whether you speak Ga or Chi or Dagbani or whatever language you speak. As long as you can hear us, we can reach you. And I think that's really powerful because what we do on the ground is important, but you can't reach everybody. You're just limited. You can't go from, household to household across the entire country. But the mobile phone probably can, because at least the stats show that in every household there's at least access to a cell phone. Not everybody might have it, but there's access, which means that you can have the information sent to that phone and people can listen and they can understand it in their local language. So let me pause here and see what other questions you have, because if you leave me, I'm going to keep going.
Okay, now not to run totally away, but then so since I'm here with you, can you tell us about some of the specific initiatives that
Sure.
you're undertaking under the Enough project?
Sure. So for the Enough project, we're doing two things. So one is we're providing access to information. So we've taken all of the content on sexual and gender-based violence from the perpetrator side and then also from the women and girls side. I think Keita mentioned that a lot of times these initiatives are aimed at the women and girls, which is fine, but it's only part of the story because they're not hitting themselves. They're not hurting themselves. Somebody is doing that to them, and it's very often the case where it's a male doing that, although there are also some males who get abused by women. And so, we've kind of couched the content in such a way that if you are struggling, with COVID and people staying at home and people losing their jobs, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of tension. So if you're struggling with hitting your wife or your girlfriend, or, you are the aggressor in this case, there's no judgment, there's support for you. And it's different because you're not looking somebody in the eye and saying, hi, yesterday I beat my girlfriend and I'm sorry. You can actually hear this information on the phone in the privacy of your own home in your local language. Nobody has to know that this is what you did, but you can get the information that is vetted by all of these wonderful partners that Kita has mentioned.
Yeah.
And you can get support, because the information is like the first, it's the first line of, getting better.
That's true.
Once you know, then you know what to do, you know where you can go to get support, and so on and so forth. So what we've done is taken all of this content, we've translated it into the local languages, 6 local languages, including English. And what happens is that you can call a short code 321 on the Vodafone network, or you can call 5100 on the MTN network. And the calls are completely free. So again, no barrier to, you don't have airtime, so you can listen. And you can call these numbers and you can hear all of this information on sexual and gender-based violence, as well as other information on health and so on. And you can start to get help. And the beautiful thing about it is that you can also get access to a counselor. So for example, if you've been hurt and you need to talk to somebody, you can talk to this impartial counselor who can't see you, but who can help you and tell you what to do. Same thing is if you're a perpetrator, you can also get help. You can actually talk to somebody and get the help that you need. So these are some of the practical ways in which we are supporting the Enough project. And it's something I'm very proud of and very passionate about, because, obviously I'm a woman and I'm very passionate about women's affairs, but it's so needed, right? I mean, a lot of people are suffering, and they're suffering in silence, and they don't need to. You can actually get help, and you can get help in a way that is not, without judgment, right? Because everybody makes mistakes and everybody needs help. But the first sign is to, kind of empower yourself to get access to that help so you can be better.
Well, this is very great. I mean, I love the fact that you're actually you're reaching the people with through a medium that they can easily understand and also work with what you're bringing to them. So it's not like we're just giving you material, we're bringing it in your own way, how
Absolutely.
you can
Exactly,
imbibe it
at the time that you want. And
time
just to
you
share
want.
some stats, I'm a big fan of stats, because I saw that you started your show with the figures.
Yeah.
So far we launched this, I think it's been a couple of months, and just looking at some of the stats already, we have over 20,000 people who have accessed these messages, which tells you that there's really a need in the system.
Yeah.
People really need help, and they should get that help. And they should get it in a way that is without, any barrier. So it's free, and we commend the, Vodafone and MTN for working with the partners to provide this free airtime, so people can learn and people can get better. And I think it's really a step in the right direction.
Even though this project is across 3 different West African countries that have kind of similar but also fairly different contexts. Ghana is a lower middle income country. Liberia is a lower income country that has a history of civil unrest. Mali is in a forgotten crisis and currently in some civil unrest themselves. And so within that context, you really need folks and organizations who are experts on the ground. They know what's going on. They know, like Fati was saying, the specific ways in which gender-based violence shows up in their communities. And so when you know how something is showing up, you know what the problems are. And so then everyone is kind of at that point then free to using the evidence-based research that we have around social norms and around changing social norms. We work with new and innovative ways using an overarching feminist principles to just really make sure that you're really tackling those norms, and you're doing it connects with young people, connects with older people, connects with men, connects with women, because I think we've all kind of said it now, gender-based violence isn't something that affects only half of the population. It affects everybody. So some of the specific things that we're doing. So like in Ghana, for instance, we're working with our partners. We are targeting public and private stakeholders to make sure that they really commit themselves to preventing and preventing violence, protecting victims, and making sure that all victims and survivors have access to things like legal services, safe spaces, and safe spaces both in the physical sense, like shelters, but also in the sense of, like Sandra was saying, you need someone to talk to. You have challenges. So we have girls clubs, for instance, boys clubs, we have school clubs. With COVID now, they're kind of more community clubs. And so even with that example, you know, the importance of having people on the ground who know the context is that you also know when and how you need to shift. And so moving into the communities when it calls for it, but also, like, because of COVID, knowing when you need to pull back for the safety of communities, and rely on things like mobile codes, short codes, and just really trying to take advantage of things like social media, for example. Young people in Ghana, I'll give you a statistics, young women in Ghana are up to 4 times more likely to be a victim of gender-based violence, of domestic violence. And so you also know that young people are really in social media spaces. And so what we've done in Ghana, for example, is really craft both our offline activities, but also our online activities, so that we're connecting with people where they are. Okay, because unless you are really connecting with people, you're just kind of talking to yourself, you're talking to the same stakeholders, you're talking to the same duty bearers, you're talking to the same people who make policies. And until you really are talking to people in communities and really letting them lead the change that they want to see, it's kind of just going to stay the same.
Well, I believe that is precisely what Fatih is doing with the Widows and Orphans movement in the Northern Region. Hello, Fatih.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, so can you please tell us about your specific initiative under the Enough project? Because what you have going on there is more of you're implementing. It's not just about putting things out, but your hands are on the ground and you're really doing something.
Yes, we are. So some of the things we're doing, for instance, is assessing the implementation of the Domestic Violence Act and legislative instruments. I think the Act was passed in 2007. For instance, as part of the Domestic Violence Act, it talks about ensure that every district has a decentralized office of charge and of social welfare officers. And so we are working with communities using the concept of scorecard to actually assess the state of implementation of some of these policies going forward. And some of the findings we are finding is that, for instance, in the Upper East, we have 7 out of the 16 districts in the region that have no decentralized office for Shraj or Doxu. And so it means that if anybody is abused in any of these districts and has to seek redress, it's going to be very expensive for the person, because they would need to move to other districts that have these offices. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why people do not report some of these cases. Again, on the background that in the Upper East region, 6 out of 10 people are poor, 3 out of 10 people are extremely poor. And so it doesn't really make sense that people would be spending money, huge monies to access something that is a right that they need to get. Some of the things we've actually also been doing is working with Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice to increase sensitizations on sexual and gender-based violence with chiefs, queen mothers, influential men, women themselves, girls class and boys class.
So, assuming there's someone out there who would like to reach out or get support, how will they be able to do that?
Yes. So usually when we have these interactions, we we tell them the nearest office that they could go to for help. So, for instance, for the communities or districts where they have either DOC2 or SHRAD or social welfare, we refer them to those offices. But then again, in partnership with WILDAF and OXFAM, we have trained some legal literacy volunteers in these communities who are able to mediate over some cases that are not criminal, but equally ensure that criminal cases are reported to the police for further action. And so this information is actually out there again among our constituents.
Okay. So sorry to cut you for that, but Sandra, in case somebody wants to help, they want to reach out, they want to get involved, how do they do that? I mean, for Viamo.
So you mean if they want to reach out, or to get access to the information, or reach out to Viamo?
Reach out to Viamo.
Okay, so if they want to reach out to Viamo, our office is at Kwame Nkrumah Circle. We're just in the same building where the Prudential Bank is. You can also email us. Our website is viamo, viamo.io. So you can go on there and you can reach out to us. And yeah, we're ever ready to help. We do a lot of work with a lot of partners around gender-based sexual violence, but also in other areas such as health, agriculture, democracy and governance. We have elections coming up, so yeah, quite a lot of work going on there. And yeah, we're really, we're passionate about what ICT for D, information technology for development and technology for good, can do, and we've seen a lot of good come out of that. So that's how you can reach us.
Okay, yeah. Keita, if someone wants to get involved, they want to help, or they want to get support, how do they do that?
So I think I might jump ahead a little bit, but this really relates to some of our campaigns. So we have our 16 days of activism that's going on right now. And it's just an example of how we're really trying to make sure that the work that we're doing is not just in spaces. It's important to be in spaces with stakeholders, with policymakers, but it's also important to be in spaces where, like you said, people need help, people are on the ground. And so we have our social media handles at OXFAM in Ghana, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, our co-partner, Women in Law and Development, Africa, Ghana, WILDAF. We are all there on social media talking about specifically what we're doing during 16 days of activism, but that's just one way that you can get in touch with us. Like both of the Enough partners have said, we are doing work, not just kind of work that is theoretical, but that theoretical work is coming onto the ground, and we're available to support people who need help. So if folks need help, they can just get in contact with us, and we'll do our best to direct them to the appropriate services.
Okay, thank you so much. Due to time constraints, this is where we have to draw the curtains on today's discussion. But it's been great having all of you here, having Sandra, having Keita, and having Fatima. You guys have been a great resource. So for all our audience listening, don't forget you can reach them, their social media handles. And don't worry, you can visit our website. We'll put more details out there for you. Thank you so much for making time for us. Thank you for doing this great work for our women and our girls and making the world a better and a safer place. We know there's not the end of it. There's more to come, and we'll keep you updated.